Welcome to the sewing part of this. We're going to show you how to do a whip stitch first before we start actually constructing the straps we just cut. So you need a needle with doubled thread, and the two ends are tied together in an overhand knot at the end. So take your thread ends after you threaded your needle and just tie a knot back through itself so that you have got a loop of thread closed by the knot. I'm going to use a really big needle and thread so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to show you how to do whip stitch. That's pretty much the only stitch I actually use while sewing a bra up. It's handy. It has depth as opposed to just running stitch was just one long in and out stitch. Whip stitch is nice because it takes a deep bite, so it's got, as it moves forward, it also has a lateral bite, and you'll see what that means in just a second. Here we go. So I'm just going to show you on a scrap right here of the duck canvas. So we've got raw edges, and we're going to fold it under, and the way you seat a piece of thread is you never just pull it in and rely on the knot. Do not do that. The knot will rip through at some point and leave a lovely hole in your garment. You're going to come through the other side and you're going to put the needle back through the loop of thread. So as you pull now, the thread is pulling on itself. It has a little bit of fabric inside of it, but the thread is pulling only on itself. In order to make a whip stitch, I come here and then grab a piece of fabric and come up right next to it. So as I have moved forward, but I have also moved laterally. So I'm now on the left side of the seam. I'm going to bring the needle to the right side. And it doesn't matter how far apart these stitches are. I'm making big ones, but this is actually about how big my stitches are when I'm sewing straps onto a top. So you put your needle through, you come to the side and you take a bite of fabric and you pull it through. And as you go, you'll end up with a series of little diagonal lines next to each other, and the phone tripod will tip over. So here we go. So we've got diagonal lines. So that's the start of a whip stitch. There are a million really good tutorials by people on the internet who might show it differently, but this is the idea. You want something that will create not only forward motion, but a little bit of side-to-side depth, because that creates a stronger seam. And on the other side, you'll see there's little white bits showing. That's fine. You'll just use a color of thread that matches your fabric. This is intended to be seen so you can see what's happening. So that is whip stitch. Occasionally I'll use running stitch, which is just this. It is not very stable. It will pull and pucker. Watch. You can easily pleat things up with running stitch. So to avoid that happening, if you want to just do a long running stitch down the back of a strap, occasionally do a back stitch. So you've got your running stitch forward and just come back one. And then the pull will stop and it won't pleat up behind that stitch. So if you're going to do a running stitch for anything, make sure to do a back stitch occasionally. This is also a trick that you should do while sewing seams of anything you want to last. Occasionally do a back stitch and then come up under the back stitch and tie a knot, because that will keep, if this thread breaks, that will minimize the damage to the overall garment. Do that while sewing the structure pieces and while beading, because that will keep beads from just showering off. And again, all you do is you come under the stitch, so your thread is your loose thread is hanging down to one side, come into the stitch, up under it, and then pick up that loose loop with the needle and then tie yourself a little knot. And then you can keep going again sewing. That is a favor to future you, so your stuff does not fall apart. You'll be amazed how much a difference that, like doing that occasionally helps. So that is a little bit of Whipstitch. There's more and more detailed tutorials by people with better camera setups, so go look at some Whipstitch tutorials if that doesn't make sense to you. Practice Whipstitch before we come to class. You're going to want to be good at it and be comfortable with it. So here are the straps that I've already cut out. Now all I need is for this green to cover the denim. I want these to be half as wide as the denim is. So I'm going to, as I pin, I'm going to fold the denim up and pin it on the outside of the green. And be careful, don't sew any pins inside your seam. Like I said, I've done that before. It's not the greatest. So if I cut the wide strap and then as I'm coming through here, I'm just gonna fold it in half, which gives me a thicker strap in terms of density, which I find comfortable. So this will be a shoulder strap for me. So I've got that. It's pinned on the outside of the pretty fabric. The core fabric is going to be folded up inside of it. Do that again so it's more visible. So there's everything. The core fabric is, the structure fabric is right here. It's been folded in half, so it's now double thick with a fold. I'm going to now fold the pretty fabric around it so that it's covered up. And I do this way because I don't like basting. I will do this, all this construction with one seam. Many people at this point, at this stage, you can certainly run a running stitch down this and hold everything together. That is not the fastest way to do this, and I'm working on limited time. Yes, my partner is in the other room making a lovely fire in the fireplace, only for the cat, because the cat is the only person in the house that needs to stay warm. Okay, so I've got both sides are covered in pretty fabric, and I've got my raw edge hanging up here. And again, this is there's a million ways to accomplish this part of things. This is just how my brain does it. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna fold this raw edge under and line it up with the edge out here. I like doing it this way so I don't have visible stitches down the back of a strap, because both sides of the strap will be visible once I have put it on the top, and you'll see what that means in a second. Although I've seen plenty of tops that have a seam down the back and they just put some trim over it. Trim is to cover every single seam on the planet. We have been given trim by our foremothers in order to cover the sins of our sewing. It is useful stuff. So I've got my raw edge, I'm just tucking it under so that my the fold matches the edge of my strap. Again, not the only way to accomplish this task. This is just how my brain does it. What you want is a core of sturdy material covered in the pretty material in such a way as no raw edges are exposed to fray. And in a way that is cuttable. Because this strap is way longer than I'm going to need, so I can make it fit on me, and then I'll just cut off the excess, and then I'll have extra bits to use to make accessories and stuff with. Okay, so here is thread that coordinates. It doesn't match perfectly, but what I'm going to do is on this seam, I come out here and catch both sides of the seam and go back through my loop, and I'm going to catch right there the pretty material, and I'm going to catch the folded sturdy core material, and we're just going to come down the length of the strap. And you can hold this in your hands like I am, or you can put a clamp on the edge of your table and clamp the end of your project so it's got some tension in it. That makes life a lot easier on a lot of people. It's easier on your hand. So you can take several stitches at a time before you come and pull. So you can see the stitches when you look directly at the edge, but when you look at the flat of the strap, it's fine. This is how like probably 50% of my straps are done. When I'm working with less generous supplies of material than a bed sheet, because this bed sheet I can cut really generously, a lot of times you'll have to position your fabric and be a lot more miserly with your pretty fabric. So that is how to cut and cover just a flat strap. So let me show you how to cut a solid body band. So that's the ones we used for the crotch part of the pants. So if we wanted to cover these, all we would need to do would be to make sure you're making, these are gonna have a right side and a wrong side. So make sure it's nice, you can tell which side is the right side and the wrong side of the denim. Make sure you lay them so that you've got mirror images and not two of the same side. You don't want two right shoes. So when I lay this one wrong side up on the fabric, this one needs to be wrong side up. And I like laying them out in such a way that I can look at them and see I have got two sides of a bra, because this is where it would meet in the middle. And this is this right here is where the cup would go. This right here is where the cup would go. So this is one whole bra. So I'm gonna move one of these so I can show you a little more easily. So I've got my strap. I'm laying it, wrong side of the denim up. Doesn't really matter. This is going to be covered. No one's going to see this blue fabric. And this is kind of great because you don't even really have to pin a lot. So you're cutting a shape around your fabric. So here's your core, here's your pretty fabric. What we'll do is we're just going to take these and fold them down. And these and fold it up. When I make this kind of strap for the body band, I almost always line it, or don't. It's fine. Only use to the inside of your bra. You can do whatever we want on the inside there. If you don't want to line it, you could fray check this, but I've seriously never had this part of things fall apart. A lot of times if I'm needing to do something fast, this is the solution I'll make, because I can just run a line of trim on the outside, just go zoop, and stitch this down to the core material at the same time as I apply the trim. That's cheating. It's not great construction. You should always have your construction sewing separate from your trim sewing. Your trim is going to wear out a lot faster than your construction will. So that is a solid body band. Now, if we wanted to put together our bra, which we do, where's the middle piece? I made a middle piece and I lost it. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to need to cover this little middle piece, just like I would the long strap, because I'm gonna need to set these cups together. So that's gonna be the next thing that we do. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this up because you don't need to watch that, and then we'll attach this to the cups.